Roasting is a handy and hands-off approach to cooking a main course or side dish for the dinner table. This method takes large cuts of meat, poultry, or large pieces of vegetables and cooks them all the way through in the oven. If you don't like to micromanage your cooking, then this is the method for you. Now, roasting requires a minimum of effort and, luckily, a minimum of kitchen equipment as well. If you have a heavy-duty, traditional finish roasting pan like this, a V-rack or baking rack, then you're probably ready to cook most cuts of meat. As for roasting vegetables, we don't use a roasting pan. Instead, we prefer to use a shallow-sided baking sheet as it allows for plenty of evaporation. Now, forget those flimsy jelly roll pans that they sell at the supermarket. I can guarantee that they're going to warp in that hot oven. Instead, you should use a heavy-duty, thick, rimmed sheet pan like those used in professional kitchens, and a sheet pan like this will contain all of the vegetables and hold up under use after use. Now, just because roasting doesn't demand our constant attention, that doesn't mean that we're going to end up with boring food. To the contrary, once in the oven, large cuts of meat brown all over, and that means plenty of flavor. In addition, the gentle heat of the oven can turn even the toughest cuts of meat into the most tender and juicy food you've ever eaten. To promote even more browning, sometimes we'll jumpstart the process by first giving food a quick sear in a skillet and turning the food to ensure that it's browned on all sides. Even vegetables, and I mean nearly all vegetables, can benefit from roasting, as the heat of the oven turns their natural sugars into a crisp golden brown crust, while cooking the interior of those foods until they're creamy and tender. That's an easy way to eat your vegetables. Now, to prepare foods for roasting, we season it well. And while that means simply tossing vegetables with salt, for meat and poultry, sometimes we'll employ other tricks. We rub salt all over large roasts and let them sit refrigerated for hours. This not only seasons the meat, but aids in tenderizing large cuts. For poultry, we sometimes use that same salting procedure that we use for meat, and other times we soak chicken or turkey in a salt and water brine. Now, finally, the last step of roasting happens out of the oven, and that's resting. And I don't mean that you get to take a break, but that large cut of meat or poultry can now finish coming up to a safe eating temperature out of the oven. That's due to the captured heat in the meat, which causes carryover cooking. Resting also allows all those precious meat juices to reabsorb back into the meat. A short 15-minute or so rest will make the difference between a juicy cut of meat or a juice-flooded cutting board. Now, thankfully, vegetables need no resting time before you chomp down on their ultra-crispy crust. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you how to prepare a stalwart and classic dish of crisp roast potatoes. You'll also learn how to roast large cuts of beef and pork, as well as how to roast poultry. It's time to go turn on your oven.